Play, Watch, Listen is a game development and games industry podcast featuring 3 game developers: Austin Wintory, who is a video game composer, Mike Bithell, who is a video game director, and Alana Pierce, who is a video game writer. This show is supported entirely by Patreon, and Patreon supporters actually got an extra 25 minutes of this particular episode. But whether you're a Patreon supporter or you're listening on YouTube or on any of our audio podcast feeds, we hope you enjoy the show.
Now I'm officially recording.
Okay.
Hello, yes.
The news today I was referring to, which this will be up next Friday, but WB. This was like 20
Monolith,
minutes
right?
ago. Yeah, they fucking shut down Monolith and canceled the Wonder Woman game, and got rid of the entire Middle Earth team. Like, insane. Yeah, it's the Shadow of Mordor. Sorry, I don't know why I said Middle Earth.
Absolutely insane.
Crazy.
Absolutely insane.
It's
No, and it's just across the board. Warner Brothers doing very weird plays. I don't know how much you pay attention to the to their business generally. Is like they're just making a lot of very strange choices in the last year or so.
Well, I remember that Coyote versus Acme
weird.
thing being like one
Yeah.
of the first strings of like, what is going on? And I wonder if it's like just a huge reshuffling. I mean, technically, I worked for WB when I was at Rooster Teeth. WB owned us, so we were a Warner company, and they
there you go.
they shut the whole thing down. We kind of knew that was coming. Even when I was at Rooster Teeth, it was like we were just waiting for WB to realize we existed, because we're so small for the companies they own. And we were like, the minute that
The Eye of Sauron kind of
100%.
turned towards
We're like,
you,
the
right?
minute that they realize that we exist, they're definitely shutting us down. It's just how long does it take for them to realize we exist? And then they shut down the whole company. I don't know. Do you have any like insight or understanding of what the strategy is? What are they doing?
I think so. There's a very interesting thing in like corporate world where it's there's this kind of strange cult around layoffs making you look financially responsible. So the logic goes it's not logical, but the theory, the kind of belief system goes that if you lay people off, that's great because you're streamlining your processes, you're reorganizing,
Short-term gains,
whatever. So a lot of but what's interesting is is the studies that have been done over the years of it show the complete opposite's true. You fundamentally fuck up your business by laying people off.
Yeah,
because that's all your
it's
institutional
short-term stock
knowledge,
market gain. That's all it is. It's literally just this is for the stock market. It
yeah,
looks
it's
like
a weird. Yeah, sorry. It's one of those things. It's one of those things where like I don't have as much faith in the stock market as a lot of people because they're stupid. They're people. They're just a group of people, and groups of people tend to make quite bad choices generally. And there is this belief within the trading world that layoffs equals smart, decisive, strong leadership. And like I said, it's never really worked for a company, but the stock market never seems to learn that lesson. So they'll probably be rewarded for it. Yeah, they will probably in the short term receive a boost because it's seen as a good thing, but by idiots. Unfortunately, idiots tend to have a lot of money, which is frustrating. But yeah, so it sucks, and it's. I think what's really tough at the moment as well, just across the games industry, is when this under normal circumstances or under like pre-COVID circumstances, a company lays off its staff. It sucks. It's a tragedy, but it kind of was quite commonplace, and there would always be other companies who were kind of going to come in and grab the talent from that company when it happened. Because everyone's in this kind of quite difficult place right now financially, there's no guarantees that there are jobs out there for people to walk into, and that's the scary part, is that there are going to be people who leave the games industry because Monolith shut down.
Totally. I've had friends leave.
And that sucks.
Yeah, there was even still games industry at least adjacent. A friend of mine who was a huge video game fan her whole life and then worked at IGN and then got laid off, left.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, that's all I wanted to do. I put my whole life towards doing this, and then she got laid off very quickly and disappeared. Like it's so brutal to watch. There's like some, we had this survive to 2025 thing.
Persist till 26 was the one advice.
I actually don't think it's true anymore. I think that the market share that the games industry had is not there anymore. And a lot of the people, because I actually spent last week reading investor websites. So I'm literally reading like analyst websites and what they're saying to investors for a YouTube video I'm making. and I read, I don't know, 50 of them maybe, like a lot of them. And they've effectively told people to pull out of video games and put money into AI.
Well, that's going to go very well for them, I'm sure.
But it's the same.
Yeah,
it's the
good,
same.
Good
thing.
for them. I wish them the best.
It's probably the right thing to do right now, as long as they pull out of for the stock market. I mean, and it's like they're pretty blatant about it. So I'm now like, oh no, the industry will readjust, but the exponential growth is not there anymore in the way that it has been. So it won't, I don't think, come back to the way it has been. Unless there's some significant technological change, which I guess a lot of them are banking on AI. And part of me even thinks the Microsoft AI announcement is a stock market play rather than a game development play. Like, did they... This is just based on all this...
This is them shutting down the servers? Or
no. They announced like a whole AI thing that every game dev agrees sounds ridiculous. Let me pull it up.
I'll bring it up, because I know Microsoft shut down a bunch of their AI servers a day or two ago, because they didn't need them, which is an interesting. I mean, the good faith version of that is just that the technology is advancing. Something I said on the show, I can't remember how long ago, a few weeks ago now, where I was like, unless some big technical breakthrough happens and AI gets a lot cheaper, and then like a week later it did. So
it can happen.
Also affecting all of this, I think. It does, and it did.
They announced. I sent you a link. They announced a thing called Muse.
Yeah.
At Xbox, we're all about using AI to make things better and more fun for players and game creators. They know that's not true. Microsoft knows game devs don't want fucking AI. No one... The backlash to this announcement was crazy. They know that people don't want it. But they basically said, we want to bring more games to more people around the world and always stay true to the creative vision of artistry of game developers. Fuck off. We believe generative AI can boost this creativity.
The thing that we're missing in the games industry is ideas. No one ever has an idea for a video game. It's a real challenge for all of us. Oh, God.
Insane. And open up new possibilities. We're excited to announce
This is not a problem anyone has.
Creativity, not at all. Not a problem we have. Nothing, not a thing that needs to be solved. Sorry, it says, we're excited to announce a generative AI breakthrough published today in the journal Nature and announced by Microsoft Research that shows this potential is to open up new possibilities, including the opportunity to make older games accessible to future generations of players across new devices and in new ways. Not really how that works. Introducing Muse, a generative AI model for gameplay ideation in partnership with Xbox Game Studios, Ninja Theory. Microsoft Research developed sorry, I'm restructuring the screen so people can see it. Microsoft developed a world and human action model, Wham, named Muse, a first of its kind generative AI model trained on Ninja Theory's multiplayer battle arena game Bleeding Edge. Ninja Theory and Microsoft Research are both based in Cambridge. What's groundbreaking about Muse is that its detailed understanding of 3D game world, including game physics and how the game reacts to player controller actions. And then they showed some examples of like Gen AI coming through a screenshot is probably not the right way to phrase this. But basically, this is a huge thing. They're clearly going in on it, and part of me wonders if it's a stock market play. If they announce this less because they intend to use this thing and more because they intend to fix their stocks. Because right now, that, like I said, I would say genuinely over 50 analyst websites, reports. I even joined an earnings call. Like did a bunch of research on this, and all of these fucking stockbroking companies or analysts are saying to invest in AI companies instead. Yeah. So if that could be what it is, every dev that I've seen respond to this article would be from different disciplines to me. Obviously, people who would know much more about how this would functionally help programmers have only had negative things to say about it. I've not seen one positive dev reaction, not one person say that they thought it would be helpful. Yeah, it's just
it's not solving a problem that we have.
No.
You know, it's not, we don't have a lack of ideas. You're right, they're talking past us to investors.
I think so.
I think the one that got me was where they talk about how it's how it supports inclusiveness. The irony being that no humans of any kind are involved. Like it's we're all equal in our being left out in the cold by this. Fortunately, I don't believe it's real. I think that helps. I think that helps my feelings about it, because it's not. And what's interesting is when these things have been tried, that because obviously for people who work in games and programming and like technical disciplines, we understand the bullshit at the heart of this kind of technology, which means that we try this stuff. You know, it's been interesting seeing programming try and use AI, get some benefits from it, but ultimately realize it's more trouble than it's worth and slowly remove it from their processes. Like it's ultimately we're the early adopters, which means we're also the earliest to leave if something's not very useful. And this isn't useful. So yeah, I don't think anyone's actually trying to sell me on the idea of using this tool to come up with ideas for video games. I think if people can't come up with ideas for video games, probably
Just
go
not a
and do
problem
something
we
else for a
have.
living, right?
Like we have so many ideas. Like not an issue at all.
Every single person who works for me has
Always.
5 ideas for games. I guarantee if I walked into the office tomorrow and asked, I would have 100 game concepts.
Totally,
on my
yeah. I
desk
saw
by the end of the day.
I don't even remember who said it, so sorry to pull this out of my ass, but someone say that they were using AI to generate film ideas. I have like 7 half-written
Just do something
screenplays
else.
going at all times. There's no issue with film ideas. No
Yeah.
one is having that problem. Like the idea part is not the problem.
Is that yeah, is that just, I'm trying to work out like the logic of that. Is that of like just someone who wants to do the work of execute? I mean, the ungenerous version is just someone wants to be perceived to have written a film. So therefore I will use an AI to do it for me and then I get to go to the cool parties. Like that would be the ungenerous assumption about why people, like if you're not interested in the creative endeavor, there's so many better ways to make money. Like go and do something that pays better than making creative
I don't know
work.
why.
It's
Like I was talking to
silly.
Rahul about this yesterday because he's been playing a bunch of Call of Duty and there was someone clearly cheating yesterday, and I was like, why? What's the point? I don't fucking get that. And I was like, literally, why would you play a game to cheat? Well,
Such
what's
loser
the
behavior.
where's the fun? And
the point?
he was like, they just like winning. And I was like, how unearned though? It's so stupid. But the screenwriting thing specifically came from an exec. So my also uncharitable assumption about why he said that was, oh, I get to tell this thing what I want written and I don't have to deal with an artist disagreeing with me and it's better for my ego. Right? They're just like, it'll do what I tell it to and I get to make all the calls and I don't have to use a writer who maybe is smarter than me or has ideas. Like, it just seems like they want to cut out.
It's very, it's
They
just,
want to make
it's
money
just,
and cut out the part, you know?
it's very maximalist. I genuinely think if an AI can be figured out, well, an LLM to be clear, because games have been using AI for 30
Sure,
years, blah,
yeah.
blah, blah. But in terms of, if LLM stuff can be, if a way can be figured out to use LLMs without stealing other people's work, then I do think there is potential applications in specific kind of tool chains and processes where I could see it being useful.
I agree.
You know, accessibility. I was chatting to Steve at DICE and just talking about like the potential for AI in that space is fascinating. If we actually took these tools and tried to solve a problem with them, like, hey, it'd be cool if every game had a screen reader. That would
Totally.
be cool. We could
Not
probably build that
anti-AI.
with AI. LLM would be well suited.
Anti-AI replacing
Exactly. Yeah. No.
creativity.
In theory, this stuff
Yeah.
is useful.
Yeah, there are use cases.
Or just yeah. Yeah, we're tool makers. At some point, we started trying to make tools without a use, and that's it's an interesting era that Silicon Valley is in, where they kind of solved for most of the immediate problems people had in terms of, I would like to be able to talk to my friends, I would like to be able to rate the attractiveness of people at my high school, like I want to be able to do X, Y, Z. And now they've run out, and they realize that it's
something
quite
people are
hard to make
asking
a
for.
smart car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not a problem anyone has. Creative people, what I want is a AI that will clean my house. That would
Please
be
do
amazing.
my laundry, dude. I'm not good at it. I have 3 bags of laundry I have to get to. Can a robot fix that for me? Please. I have a lot of creativity that I like doing, and I'm doing just fine.
And I'm a believer that everyone does. I want that Star Trek future where we can all just pursue our passions and not have to worry about this stuff. Like, that would be amazing. I want everyone to be able to have as much privilege as we have to kind of spend our days making whatever we want to an extent, right?
It's crazy because it's sort of where we
Sucks.
came from. Like previously, that obviously a very long time ago, yes, there was like the hunter-gatherer era. They were still making cave art. Like, that's what they were doing, is eating and cooking and having sex and making art. It's like, we just go back to that. You know what I mean?
I did
great.
not have Alana becomes a paleo influencer on my bingo card. But if you want to be like the liver queen, you carry on. Like
Maybe I will.
You go for it. I think you should. I think it's in your future.
Gotta make it work. What I will say is, Phil Spencer, hey, huge fan. I really like you.
We like you,
wanna
Phil.
if you
You're
want to
always
come on
nice
the
to us
show,
supplies.
yes, very nice. If you want to come on the show and talk to us about why Muse is good and not just a stock market play, you're welcome anytime.
And,
Right
and
now,
also, Phil, like, if
I
it
don't
is a
like
stock market play, you carry on. Like, we don't mind. Like, you go for it.
Well, because part of me is like, if it is a stock market play, which is what it feels like, again, unless it's
Yeah.
just something that I don't know, then at least because this is the first thought that I had. It was like, well, at least in theory, it would get funding that would help dev teams make games. Like,
Sure.
okay, like if you lie about using AI to get shareholders on board, so you
Phil,
can put
I
more
will
money
go
in
on
the game.
stage and say that AI was integral to the making of the game if you pay for the game with AI money. You feel free to
That's
do that.
great. AI can be integral to your shares as long as it doesn't make the games. Fine with that. Because, yeah, this says Xbox's approach to generative AI. This is an interesting thing that they've said. For Xbox, game creators will always be the center of our overall AI efforts. We believe there is space for traditional game development and future generative AI technologies that serve as an extension of creative work and offer novel experiences. As part of this, we have empowered creative leaders here at Xbox to decide on the use of generative AI. There isn't going to be a single solution for every game or project, and the approach will be based on the creative vision of the goals and the team. Look, maybe it'll happen eventually. Right now, I would think the amount of people who will say outright no has got to be 99%. I would think almost every director is going to say no.
Yeah, and even if people aren't like, ethically concerned about like the copyright stuff, we're all waiting to see how that plays out legally worldwide because it's only going to take. Nobody wants to be the test case. No one wants to be that first company. You know, I remember. Do you remember like was it Last of Us where there was like a picture on a wall that was like from someone's DeviantArt that had been used as reference and accidentally made its way into the final game?
Been a few
and
examples
it was a
of that.
massive. Yeah, with AI, that's gonna happen hundreds of times per project.
Totally.
So it's like everyone's waiting to. No one wants to be the first person to try that stuff, even if you're not fussed by the ethics, which some people aren't. Some people are just consider it, a transformative thing. That's again something for others to figure out. I'm going to continue to make original stuff until I feel more comfortable with it, which I don't see happening anytime soon.
The Call of Duty finally admitted this week that they had used AI generated art that like COD players were very quickly calling AI slop, but they didn't acknowledge it, of this like zombie wearing a Christmas hat. They admitted it this week that it was AI, and that's part of the problem is the lack of disclosures. There's one performance in Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is, I think, by all accounts, a fantastic game. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 specifically.
Yeah, it's reviewed amazingly, right? Yeah.
It's very impressive, man. It's a fucking banger of a video
Technically
game.
astonishing,
So cool. But there's one performance where sometimes the actor sounds fantastic. Sometimes it's insane. And we're like, I kind of feel like the only way to excuse that is if the rest of it's AI. Like her I because it stands out as being so bad sometimes, I searched it on Reddit and there are tons of threads being like, what the fuck happened here? Because sometimes the accent's like Jamaican, sometimes it's like Welsh, like it's all over the place. And I was like,
to be fair, those two accents weirdly similar. Weirdly, I say that as a Welshman. Weirdly similar.
Very extreme though, and it's so odd that it doesn't.
I've done my Welsh accent and had people have a look at me like, are you doing a racist joke right now? Like I've had I've had that moment happen. It's like, no, Welsh accent.
I love the Welsh accent. All good. It's probably my favorite.
Such a beautiful accent.
It is. But you're right, that does sound kind of Jamaican. But yeah, point being like
or Indian, like it wobbles around a bunch of places.
Yeah.
Like it's a very, very dangerous accent to do. Yeah.
The lines that she delivers well, she delivers so well that the ones that are delivered poorly, like, just don't make sense. Like it just doesn't add up, and because there's no requirement to disclose AI, we just kind of don't know what is and what isn't right now. It's like I feel like things are being regulated far too slowly in the internet era. Like, how is it legal that the president has a cryptocurrency? How is that allowed? That someone who is supposed to be trying to regulate this particular thing is also profiting from this particular thing? Like, I
think you're right. I think he might be up to no good, Alana. I think he might not give a shit. Yeah.
But how is no one else going? You can't do that. Did you see the Argentina thing with the cryptocurrency scam? The president of Argentina. I was like,
Did he come out on stage with I saw him like with Elon Musk on stage or something? Yeah.
fucking wild. Like
it is wild. It is really scary actually,
like
which is
it
why
basically means at this point if you can become a
humor.
world leader, you can get millions of dollars from crypto scams because you can prevent anyone from regulating you. Like it's fucked. Like it's so.
If you're the president of the United States, it's not a crime. You know, it's the Nixon quote, right?
That's. I guess he wasn't entirely sure. That's why he announced his crypto the day before he became president. And like the both the Argentina, crypto scam and I don't know if it's Trump coin, but the Melania coin were run by the same guy. He's like a 28-year-old. So there's like basically this 28-year-old running around convincing world leaders to fucking do rug pull, pump and dump crypto scams, knowing that they can't be. I'm losing my mind, Mike. What's going on?
It's
things are just not being regulated fast enough.
What's the YouTuber who does a lot of the crypto scam content?
CoffeeZilla.
What's his name? CoffeeZilla. I just stopped watching CoffeeZilla because it was just making me so angry. I was like, I love what you do, CoffeeZilla. I ever meet you, I'm buying you a drink. But like, I do not want to watch your content anymore. This is just infuriating. This is the bad guys winning at every turn, and it's just too much.
I feel like at least he's not polite. Like that is the thing about that is like when he is covering these crypto scams, CoffeeZilla specifically, if anyone like wants to like learn a lot about crypto, he's definitely the go-to YouTube channel for that.
And he's also not like anti the like I'm anti crypto as a concept. He's not that. He's not extreme.
He's anti-crypto scam. There are at least use cases.
I respect that.
There are use cases. I understand the cons, obviously, but there are use cases for Bitcoin and Ethereum. They serve a purpose other than make people rich. Bitcoin specifically. I like blockchain technology. That's a whole separate thing, though. There are many issues with that too. But
I guess that's my point. I don't want to listen to the opinions of people like me who are like, this is entirely evil. I want to listen to the more balanced. He seems to be on the side of good, basically, and interested in that. So it's cool. Sorry.
But the meme coin stuff, it's just scams top to bottom, and he does a very good job of covering those. But I just can't believe it's allowed. And I guess the same thing with generative AI and the copyright issues is like it's just nobody's doing anything yet. It's just even social media feels like it's just fucking got really out of hand and nobody's doing anything. It's just how it works now. The whole U.S. government being overthrown thing by a guy who's not even an elected official feels like he just did it so fast that nobody knows what to do. So they're just like.
I mean, it's how it's happened every other time in history.
It's true. Just overthrow as fast as possible so nobody knows how to react. It's great.
It's the meme from Andor, which again, like I hate referencing Star Wars to talk about politics. But the thing about Andor, that kind of do 10 things at the same time and they'll all get through because you just jam up people's ability to deal with. I'm sure that's quoting something. It's probably a Lenin quote or something. I want to print or Marx. It's something that I could reference. But yeah, it's
Karl Marx. No. It's Andor.
It's Andor.
Never heard of it.
It's a very deep and insightful political drama. Actually, it is an annoyingly good political drama.
It's a great show. Yeah. But yeah, it's
the costuming on the second series as well. Kerry may have wandered through like where they had some costumes, and she's been hyped about the costumes in that show for like 3 years or whatever. So they're finally kind of in the trailer. It's very exciting.
That's awesome. Cool. But yeah, generative AI specifically, again, it's just well, let me ask you this question in the most charitable way possible. Obviously, we're speaking about it. It's like my friends don't like this, and we have AI concerns. How do I phrase what I want to ask you here? Is there any way in which you, as someone with programming skills, feel like you could be aided by generative AI? Like, give me the
any
most
programmer who's ever worked for me is like going, Mike has programming skills.
You have though.
But I know what you mean. No.
Give me the most charitable answer possible to this question.
The most charitable answer is there's a lot of jobs one does when one is coding which are repetitive or don't require much intelligence. There's just a lot of like setting up variables, doing stuff that is effectively you have to boil a lot of water as a chef. You've got to write a lot of variable strings as a programmer. It's not clever. I'm not expressing myself creatively through boiling the water, but the water needs to be boiling before I can start fucking cooking anything. And there's those kind of jobs in programming that theoretically, and I know some programmers who do, you could offload some of that stuff. You could say, I want this variable to work like this, and the computer just does that for you. There is an angle there that's useful, and I could see that being something, and it already is something in quite a few programming platforms, like something one can do. The problem becomes then, though, if it gets something wrong and you didn't make it, so therefore you don't know how to fix it. And that's something that we're seeing a lot of now, where programmers especially newer generations of programmers who just come in and are very fast because they can use the AI tools because they're native to it, but don't know the fundamentals, will make something and then they'll need to debug it and they'll have no idea how it works. And that's a really interesting shift. It's a similar thing has happened with every profession. There's a certain point with most creative or technical jobs where you basically lose the knowledge of how the thing works. So the example of this would be the average person who drives a car doesn't know how to fix an engine, right? They don't need to. We have a society that's built around the idea of garages existing that you can go to and get your car fixed, and it doesn't matter that you don't know how the car you're driving works. The scary thing about this from a programming point of view is we do rely on the programmers to know how the code works. And if you've got situations where code is being edited or changed on important systems, not in video games, that doesn't matter, but in, like, let's say you were to take a bunch of 20-year-olds and have them start rewriting code in major government departments using a lot of AI and not knowing what they're doing, you're not going to create Skynet, but you're going to create a very stupid piece of programming that probably breaks a bunch of stuff and fucks up people's medical records or something. Like there's going to be consequences to this. It's going to be stupid though, rather than like evil.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen.
Where it comes
but yeah, that's the generous thing is in the hands of a skilled technician, skilled programmer, this could speed you up.
Okay.
It's a rice cooker rather than a saucepan and water.
Yeah, I get that. Another one, I feel like this is what's being sold to players more than anything, is the idea that AI can help with the interactive experiences by generating dialogue on the fly based on what they have just done. Now,
I want to know what your opinion is on this. As someone who writes that kind of content, or has written that kind of content for many years, like, what's your view on that? Like, in terms of meaningful dialogue through AI?
At Sony Santa Monica Studio, the writers work with, at least on my project, a narrative designer who is effectively somebody who is helping you implement the lines. Like, a big part of being a writer is then, like, you write the lines and then you work with somebody who then implements them into the engine, and you do that like live with them, and you say, okay, well, these lines are slightly too far apart, or like these are too close together, or I need to cut that line and make it shorter because these kind of overlap and I need more space, whatever. So a lot of it's not just writing in a doc, it's also implementing the writing into the game. My answer to this, ultimately having worked with narrative designers, is that we can already do that. We already have the ability to cater dialogue to what people are doing. It is a very specific thing that is not even tremendously difficult. Games have been doing it for a very long time. The thing is, there's not really that much demand for it. Data says that players generally, when given a bunch of dialogue options, majority of them end up choosing the same fucking options. If they're playing something like Mass Effect, they also tend to be incredibly satisfied with the dialogue options that are presented to them, and obviously we just program with what is now called a narrative designer. I doubt that that role even existed when Mass Effect was made. You're already given the answer. Telltale games have had for a very long time. This person will remember that. Like, it's that they're... This is
which
the
they
cell.
flashed up often when that person wouldn't remember it, just to make something feel more important.
That is
my favorite.
I remember when you told me that. Yeah. That's crazy. Like, just to make people worry about something.
It's so good.
Such a good trick. Yeah. But yeah, basically my answer is A, we can already do that, and we would be doing more of it if there was demand for it. But
yeah,
everything ever, including player review scores, YouTube Let's Plays, and just actual playtest data, shows that players do not actually have any need for that. That they tend to be very satisfied with the way that we are already curating very specific lines that consider the broader input of the whole character and the environment, and that's what we give them. It's also just if players wanted fully different experiences, the games that aren't successful for narrative reasons would look very different, you know? So it's basically like, A, we can already do it. We have the ability to give you 100 different lines or to even chop up lines. There are things that we can use without using generative AI that are already capable of saying, okay, well, let's give you this sentence and then this sentence and then this sentence, which can technically be in 3 different parts of the game, but we're putting them together based on the things that you've done here. There are already games that are using that technology. I almost spoiled an NDA. There's a certain studio has been working on that for a very long time. And it's very...
Isn't that, yes, a certain studio has. And they've not really made anything yet. That's interesting.
They sure haven't. But it's basically just, we can already do it if we wanted to. There isn't much player demand for it. It's just not a thing that, same as you're saying, that we've actually needed to solve. The games that are the most narratively successful are ones that are set in stone. Like Mouthwashing recently blew up. Horror indie game made by Wrong Organ, Swedish studio. You don't have any differences in the way characters react to you, and then that narrative is resonating very, very broadly. So it's something that I think AI answers, which like people have already done in Skyrim with generative AI, is funny, makes for a funny stream or a YouTube video, is not actually a thing players actually have demand for. They might think they do. You don't.
It's also it's interesting. You can come at it from the opposite angle as well. So you're talking about demand, but there's also an oversupply. Like, it's not impressive or interesting. Like, the idea of an endless chat, like, you know, I'm working on Tron. If someone out there who's a Tron fan wants to have an infinite conversation as if they're talking to a character from the Tron franchise, they can load up ChatGPT, say, you are this character from Tron, let's have a conversation. And they can have that experience for free or as close to free as can be, like, without me needing to do any work, and they don't need to come to me and buy a video game from me to have that experience, which means that experience is essentially valueless. Like, it becomes standard very quickly. I think in games and technology in general, we're really used to there being a benefit to being the first with something. So if you're if there's a cool bit of technology you've built that no one else has figured out how to do yet, and you're the first person out with it, then that's a really cool, exciting thing. And then when others then duplicate that or whatever, the value of that goes down, it becomes kind of standard, normalized. I think there's a very natural reaction to, wow, we can make computers just have organic, long-lasting conversations with the player. The first game to do that's going to be massive.
Facade.
That's going to be the biggest deal ever.
I already fucking did it.
And it already exists. Yeah, no one cares. No. And I think that's the shift is... Yeah, and I think also people are going to pick up our Tron game because they want to see what me and my team do with Tron. That's the story we tell, how it's influenced by our worldviews, and definitely not our politics, never our politics. I'm not putting politics into a
They don't exist.
Tron game.
All games are apolitical.
Politics don't exist. I want to be very clear. All
in the
of my
Tron
games
universe,
are always apolitical.
No politics.
No opinions at all.
No.
But like that's why people go and find stories from creators they like or storytellers they like. The idea that you would want to play D&D with an idiot, I don't think appeals to many people. People love D&D because it's an opportunity to be expressive themselves and share time with their friends and share stories with people who they know and can care about and learn about. That's a really good, positive thing. This isn't it. This isn't going to hold any value for people because it can't tell a story in a meaningful way. It can't do something original.
You're never going to gimmick.
Get a Sam Lake game out of this thing. It's never going to happen.
And I like, again, even the but I could have different dialogue options based on what I just did. Again, that tech is already there, is already frequently used. And if there were player demand for it, we could implement more of that without tremendous difficulty. It is not that hard to bank lines to have reactions from NPCs based on the thing that you just did. We don't need Gen AI
written by good writers.
Exactly.
Yeah, in most games the verbiage is very limited, so there's only so many things a player could do. I remember a game I loved called Starship Titanic back in the day. You could talk to characters via text. You could write in text, and organically they'd reply to us. A text adventure game where you just wrote sentences to talk to people, and it was a magic trick, and I loved it. And I remember when I actually ended up going to uni, and one of my lecturers was the producer on it, and I remember just talking to her about it and her saying, Mike, there's like 300 things anyone would say to it, so we just wrote the lines for them. And yeah, half of them were, you saying something rude to it or being sexually provocative to it, and the other half was like just stuff about the game world, and we had you covered. And then basically people are very predictable, and
Totally.
through good play testing you could absolutely make something that genuinely felt like it was really reacting to you, and well written in its reactions to you, very straightforwardly, as you say. It's not, especially in a video game, and especially in kind of the standard third-person action AAA game, the verbiage is low. You can the things a player can do, the ways the player can express themselves. I mean, arguably, like studio like Naughty Dog has got that down to an art where they know exactly where you're going to be looking as you turn a corner, and they'll put something there, and it's a horrible thing, and no one likes to hear it, but people are pretty predictable. And when you're a skilled practitioner making artwork for people, you can predict 80% of how they're going to react to or what they're going to at least pay attention to, or what they're going to do.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think it's solving a problem no one has, right?
Yeah,
That's fundamentally
it's a fun selling point to players, I think. But is functionally, yeah, you're absolutely right, solving a problem nobody has. If you complain about like writing video games or video game writing being bad, which is a take I often see, and in some cases that can be true. It is actually really fucking hard to write video games for a multitude of reasons. I don't know if I've spoken about it at length here, but like one thing is you have to consider the last time somebody played the goddamn game. So like, what if someone took a month break and one person is only taken a day? You have to cater to all of these narrative variables that just do not exist in other mediums. So there are inherently flaws in the way that you are going to tell your story, or the way you are going to like show emotional progression, because you have to cater to that's just one example of ways that video game writing becomes harder. Is you don't know at what point they're picking up and putting it down, and you don't have a say like you do in a TV show. You're going to watch a whole fucking episode. Movie, they're usually going to finish the movie. Like it's that in itself is super complicated. There are a lot of
And then there's the interactive element. So, I'm going to keep the details out of this, but we've been playtesting our next game. And part of the feedback we've had is people liking the story, but getting confused/frustrated by something about the story, because there's a chunk of gameplay between A and B. And that chunk of gameplay is kind of distracting enough and interesting enough that they lose track of a thread. So it's all of that stuff as well. It's not just them stepping away from the game.
Yeah.
It's them actually playing the game can negatively impact their enjoyment of the story, and that kind of...
A lot of
that's
very
the stuff where it
complicated
gets really interesting.
Yeah, when people like talk about, movie writing or whatever being better than video game writing, it's just they fundamentally can't be the same thing. It's like I think there are games that are fantastically well.
Also, I disagree. I think
I don't agree as
I
a whole
much
either.
prefer video game writing to film writing. I've had more profound engagement with a world in a game than I ever have in a film, I think.
I don't agree with that,
That's
but
maybe a big statement. That's a big statement. There's going to be like 500 comments. I'm sorry, chat.
I think that there are strong experiences in both mediums that I think are incredible. I will say. I don't feel
Yeah,
like...
right, Lee. I'll give you that ground.
Sorry,
give you that ground.
it's a boring take. Both
We
quite
got
good.
to keep. There's people we got to keep on side. We got to keep Phil on side. We got to keep the film industry on side. We both got people we got to keep on side. So I'm up for it.
It's
fine.
not an agenda. They're just actually quite good in a lot of cases. Okay.
I know. I agree.
Which, speaking of which, this is a weird turn. We could take a turn. Basically, Microsoft, I don't believe you. Phil, if you want to talk to us, you're welcome anytime. I think this is a stock market play, and I don't buy that you actually want this.
This is a hell of a pitch. It's a hell of a pitch.
Come on,
Phil,
the
I
show.
don't believe you. Come on the show anytime.
Yeah, but he knows we wouldn't be rude to him. Like I would ask genuine questions, and
I like him.
maintain-
I like him.
he's-
I've
he's
chatted to
a
him a
good
few
dude.
times.
I
I
would
like him.
maintain as much of an open mind as I possibly can. Which is currently, why do I need this? Convince me, why do I need it? And I will hear you out. I'm not anti-AI as a whole. Anyway, hard right turn from that, Mike. I messaged
We're going
you this...
hard right.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
it's
guess
about
that's
time.
where the world's going. Fair enough.
Where's Austin
yeah.
when you need him? I finally watched... This is something we spoke about so long ago, and you all yelled at me for not having seen this particular movie.
Oh, I know what this is because you told us.
I finally
Discord,
watched
yeah.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Oh my god.
I'm going to do a rare callback for those who've been with us for a while. I don't have a bookshelf, but I literally on my desk have the book by the animation director of that film, so I'm just going to start reading that as we talk.
He's always got one.
How badass is that?
Oh my God.
I've always got the book. I've always got the book. It's a great book, except for the homophobic page, but it's a great book. Carry on.
Excuse me?
There's a book about how to do a gay walk on a character.
Wow.
Which has aged quite poorly since the book came out.
Wow, that's crazy.
Let's move along. It's all good.
Wow.
It's all good.
Okay, so one thing that really stood out to me about this movie is, and I don't know if
tell. It's finally time to talk about it. I'm so excited.
I don't know if this is me being jaded. There are actually two things that stand out. One is this feels like a movie made by artists who made the thing they wanted to make, not considering how difficult the thing would be. And I feel like that's not that common. They went, no, we're going to do this because it'd be fucking cool. There was no consideration of how difficult it would be to do that thing. They just did it. There are so many things that I'm like, you could have just not done that thing and this would have been so much easier, but it's so clear they made the thing they wanted to make. It is insane. Like,
and invented a profound, if you've got a chance, go and look at all the behind the scenes stuff. They made so much technology for that film. It's insane.
Well, ILM at that point in time, right? They were just making fucking huge advances in the film industry. But like, I watched one of the behind the scenes that shows that they would act the scene out. There was a full life-size puppet of every character made of foam. And they would act the scene out and fully record those scenes. So these actors must have been doing so many takes. But the puppets were specifically used for lighting reference, so that when they were then animating the characters, they weren't animating them on top of the puppets. They were just using the exact shadows that were on the puppets of these characters that they were then going to animate to make sure the lighting was
good. Which we still do, which is still part of the CG pipeline for a lot of productions. Yeah.
And the shadows, like, they look so good, and it's clearly because of that. Like, it was just really, really cool to watch. But like, again, so much effort. Like, those actors had to do those scenes so many times. To make sure that would work. There was one thing that, like, speaking of they made the thing they wanted to make and not the thing that was the easiest to make, they swap guns from being animated to being real to being animated. They have animations hold real guns, and then they have human characters hold animated guns.
They got like fishing wire the gun, right?
So
it's insane.
Fucking cool. Like, just it was just so cool to watch something.
It's the one where he's got like a weasel in the sink. That's the one. Rabbit. The Roger Rabbit's in the sink, right? And he keeps pulling him up, pulling him down as the weasels are threatening him.
Yeah,
it's
with
incredible.
the guns. Dude. Yeah, just so cool to watch.
How good an actor was Bob Hoskins, though?
Incredible.
Like, seriously.
Top to bottom.
Yeah.
So cool to watch something that you just feel the creative forces of the people behind it who made it. And the animation's so impressive. And there are so many things that I was like, how the fuck did they do any of this? And then you watch the behind the scenes and it's just like somebody jumping through a window and then the window actually smashing, like, and even though it's an animated character, like, just God, it's so cool. Number 2, oh boy. So this movie, the core of the story started because there used to be this red car tram service in LA that legitimately
amazing public transport.
I didn't even know.
And it was fine, right? It's still there, Alana, because nothing bad happened. There was no awful
great public
situation,
transport
right?
across the board. You could basically get from like Pasadena to Santa Monica just using this red tram system that somebody bought up and privatized. So they got rid of all of these red cars. There aren't any of them left in the city. And there are speeches from the villain in this movie who, damn, sometimes it's really scary. I feel like this would have scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
I was terrified as a kid, with a bit like with his eyes. I remember as a kid being genuinely upset by that. Yeah. I found that really disturbing as a kid.
Real messed up. But he gives this speech about, and it hadn't even happened yet, which is the worst part, about how he just wants LA to be people in highways, stuck in traffic all day, every day, looking at billboards and driving through strip malls. And he was right. This was made as they were getting rid of the tram system, the red cars, not after.
Also, with the, I don't know if it was the red cars or if it was a different moment. I might be getting my American transport history confused. Apologies for not knowing my American transport history as well. So I might.
Yeah.
But there's there was also the whole stuff about Toontown being kind of demolished. That's also the idea of a group of people in the culture in an American city who are creating a lot of the entertainment, who are very popular and doing shows. Like it is obviously kind of a satire on how those people were kind of ghettoized and black people in America were most affected by these things. And there's a lot you can absolutely watch that movie as an analog for the experience of
it's
black
apolitical
people in America in the 30s. There's no politics.
No politics
there's
in
no
my art.
politics.
Thank you. Bring back the good old days. But I mean, there's Dodger Stadium in LA. It used to be a very large Hispanic community, and they straight up kicked them out to build the stadium. They were like, "Hey, fuck off," and got rid of all of this housing, this whole community that lived near Dodger Stadium, to build the stadium. Like that. It was just especially rough.
Bob Hoskins went woke. That's the problem. That's the problem.
That's why that movie went broke with its like 30 million.
It did. It famously absolutely flopped.
Like, let me check. Whatever it was hugely successful, but also crazy expensive. Like I can't.
That was the thing. It went crazy over budget as well because it was animated. Wasn't it animated? I feel like it was animated like internationally as well. There's like I feel like a lot of it was animated in the UK. I think.
Let's get some.
I think it's part of like British animation legend that a lot of that film was made here.
So first, his budget was 50 million, and that is in 1988. That is an insane budget. Box office was 350 million. Wow.
And then you've got the legacy of it. You've got every VHS that was sold. You've got there's a ride at Disneyland. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole history there. There's a built up franchise. It's surprising they didn't do a sequel. I know they did. They did some shorts quite recently. They did like some baby shorts from it, but
it was probably one of those things that they were like, "This is too fucking hard."
Yeah. Was it Zemeckis?
Yep.
Is Zemeckis the director? Yeah.
Yep.
Who has just, like, in terms of careers pushing the envelope, he has been at the front of that curve for, like, 40 years. Like, even 100%. Down to, like, his deepfake movie that just came out with Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Where they're in a room. Here.
Yeah, he's worked with Tom Hanks a bunch of times, right? Here. Yeah, sorry, yeah. I actually have my understanding of that wrong. So it's set in 1947, but filmed in 1988. So probably the commentary on... LA turning into highways was already happening. It wouldn't be as bad as it is now.
Oh, no, they were 100% being ironic. Yeah, 100% they were being ironic. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that they were predicting the future exceptionally well, but that's because I didn't realize that happened in 47. But yeah, it's probably worse than it was. But it's what a terrible thing to happen. So production was moved from LA.
That's what's insane about the idea of how America is built, which I think I completely went over my head as a kid. Sorry, I'm going to keep bringing it back to Disneyland because I'm obsessed with Disneyland. But like, there's a car ride at Disneyland where you can ride little cars around like a fake highway. What's
literally
it called?
Cars, isn't it? Is it not the Cars ride?
No. There's like an old. It was. It'll be in the comments. There was a ride that was at the opening of Autopia, I think, which was basically the ride was, and you're in a little car and you can drive around kid-sized cars riding around a highway. And when Disneyland was built in the 60s, that was a futuristic ride about the future of transport. Because there were highways, but the idea of like the freeways of like this massive adoption, this stuff is so recent, and it's very easy to just assume it's always been there. But like it was in the 60s, that stuff was new and fresh and exciting. It's wild how quickly we restructured our world around fast car travels. Yeah, it's insane.
Does say Los Angeles had traffic jams in the 80s, so apparently that's not super
it would have been,
certainly gotten way worse. There's this one particular, anyone who lives in LA will know what I'm talking about. There's this one particular road. It's an on-ramp to a freeway. It's not quite a highway, but it's a main road. And it was built, I don't know, 50s or something, when there weren't half as many cars and people weren't driving half as fast. So now the amount of time that you have to speed up to get on that particular road is fucking insane. Like every time
Oh, I know the one you mean.
it's
I know the one you mean.
heading towards Pasadena. But basically it's just every time you do it, you're like, oh my god. And I didn't realize it was kind of a thing that everyone was just terrified of until I saw a meme about it. And I was like, oh, we all share this experience of that particular intersection being fucking terrible because these roads were built so long ago and just couldn't know to cater to how terrible the traffic is now and how fast cars would go as well, I guess.
And the blockages as well of just like it's physically impossible if you're one side of town to get to another side of town like for a big chunk of time, right? Like if you're on the wrong side of LA, you're not going to make it to that dinner on the other side of LA, right? You're done. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. I often
insane.
had, when I first moved to LA, I lived on a different side of town to a lot of my friends, and they went to have dinner after work, and I wouldn't be able to make it. And be like, you guys are having dinner at 7? I finish work at 6. I can't do that. There's no fucking way I'll ever get there in time, so I just couldn't do anything. But sorry, you mentioned production in the UK. So it says production was moved from Los Angeles to Elstree Studios in England to accommodate the animators specifically. While filming, the production budget rapidly expanded and shooting schedule ran longer than expected. And I mean, it kind of, we can make it work that this is an episode where we're shitting on AI because, like, this is such an artfully made movie. It is, while the story is there and is still, like, enjoyable, it is more a properly guffawing, not a word I use often, while you watch just how beautifully artful it is. It's just gorgeous and so handmade and so delicately handmade and so creative. And
so full of weird mistakes they had to cover for, which led to good ideas and inappropriate jokes made by animators that were kind of hidden in, like, there's like a couple of things there that are like up for 2 frames that you blink and you miss it.
I didn't know that.
I'm sure
That's
are not
funny.
on the Disney Plus version. Yeah, there's a couple of moments of cameras being where they shouldn't, etc. But like but again, like all the stuff that makes human are human and makes this whole enterprise worthwhile and makes it something you want to connect with because it's interesting. It's fun because it's a funny movie where a rabbit runs around and has adventures, but it's also an interesting movie because of all of the context we just discussed. Like all the stuff that is interesting and plays into it and it triggers conversations, and you can't get that by just randomly slamming stuff. You could write a prompt that was, it's the 1940s and it's film noir and a rabbit is trying to it brings on a private investigator, blah, 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 blah.
And
You
also
could write
it's
the
a
entire plot out
commentary
and it
on
wouldn't...
capitalism and racism and
still
classism.
wouldn't get there.
No, you'd never get
I mean,
there.
and that's the other thing. I'm pretty sure I've said this on the show before, but it's also that creative act of trying to do something and failing is so often the cause of something that feels really intentional, in the sense that, like, it's an adaptation of a book. It's nothing like the book. Like the Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the book, it's got a different name. I can't remember what it's called. Is completely tonally different. It's about a cartoon rabbit. Who censored Roger Rabbit? It's a completely different thing. And the reason Who Framed Roger Rabbit exists and is what it is someone was given the job of, hey, can you adapt this book into a movie, please? And that person on every level failed to do that. They did something completely different. And that's what made it cool and interesting. And that's kind of the string of stuff, that getting something slightly wrong, that leading to an interesting solution. It's just, we're humans, we like looking at things humans made. There's a reason cave paintings are still visually appealing to us in a way that random scratches on a wall aren't.
Yeah, because there's something you can look into,
I have a completely
right?
different life experience.
You're trying to draw the meaning out of what those scratches mean, whereas if it
I know another human mind drew that on the wall. And that makes it interesting for me to engage with it and try and work out, well, what were they trying to do here? Probably they were hungry. Probably they were writing up instructions for how to hunt buffalo or whatever.
Bringing it back.
But it's interesting.
Paleo era, let's go.
I love that stuff. Paleo, yes. I want Liver Queen. I want that channel to exist.
It's so funny.
I bet it does. I bet that exists. I bet
almost
I could 100%
definitely someone's
Google that
already...
and it would exist.
Someone's
I choose
definitely
not
already
to.
done that.
I choose not to.
No, yeah. Keep yourself sane. But yeah, in general, just, I thought it was incredible. I remember, I think, like, we may have spoken about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I just remember it standing out as a movie that I hadn't seen, maybe even when Troy still was on the show. Like, it was ages ago, but I remember you all yelling at me, and finally the other day being like, you know what, let's fucking watch it. And just
I don't
never
like
seen
how
anything
many
like it.
of the
Just-
origin stories of you watching a movie is us or Rahul bullying you until you did. That's not good.
When I was talking on Funhouse, like I would regularly bring it up because the reactions they would have would be funny. If I hadn't seen a particular movie, it was basically a comedy show, so I was regularly like baiting them about it. But the audience could be very hostile about it, like be like, "How have you not fucking seen that?" And really condescending. So I feel very lucky that of all of these people that I have in my life who yell at me about movies, it is solely with encouragement and excitement. Nobody is ever being judgmental. Everyone is just like, oh my god, yes, I want you to watch that thing and I want to hear what you think about it. Which I also think is actually kind of common with video games. Like you'll hear, I can't get my partner to play video games. I just the other night had 2 girls over who don't play video games at all because I wanted to show them Until Dawn. They were so down and so excited to do it and had never played a game. If I handed them a controller, they wouldn't know how to use it. You just have to kind of be inviting about it. If you want people to like the shit you like, just don't be mean to them about the shit you like. Like, just be like,
It's just
come in.
good. That's good advice for all areas of life. Yeah,
It's
just
true.
kind of welcome people in.